your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
Is that a monkey?
Where are the gorillas?
Nice monkey suit.
The help with this chimp, we may have a championship season.
Monkey!
It's like I'm talking to a monkey.
No one wants to be turned into a monkey.
Apes together.
Strong.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cinemonkey, the monkey movie podcast where we talk all things monkeys in media and sapiens in cinema. And today, I'm Mike DePalma. I didn't say my name yet, but today we are joined by my good buddy, my good friend, David Ramon.
Hey, what's up, guys? Happy to be here.
Hey. And today we're talking about a movie that's a little bit different than the previous movies that we've talked about on this podcast. It's a little bit more adult, so there are some adult themes that we're going to be talking about in this movie. Because prior, if you haven't listened to the podcast, mostly talking about Kong and Godzilla slapping each other. But today it's a bit more human, a little bit more nuanced. It's an R-rated film. It's a film called Monkey Man. Yeah, what a movie this is.
Yeah, I think the most direct title tied to your podcast out of the other movies, I think. But yeah.
I will say I came up with the idea of this podcast in January of this year. And then like a week later, the trailer for this dropped. And I was like, it's perfect. It's destiny, fate.
Yeah. So and that's not the only thing. I mean, you got like the new Planet of the Apes movies, a whole bunch of stuff. But
yeah, we look at the year and I was like, this is the best possible time to do this with Godzilla, Kong, Planet of the Apes, and Monkey Man. It's it's Hot Monkey Spring or Cool Monkey. I don't know. It's Monkey Spring.
It's Hot Monkey Spring. You already said it first. That's yeah.
All right. So we'll talk about this fun, interesting film, Monkey Man. So Monkey Man was directed by Dev Patel, not David Patel.
I thought you were going to say my name. I wish I directed this movie. I honestly did. I wish I did.
And it was also with a screenplay by Dev Patel, Paul Anguilla, and John Coley. If I mispronounced your names, I'm so sorry. The movie stars, if you can imagine, Dev Patel, Charlito Copley, Pito Bash, Vipin Sharma. Jeez, I am butchering these names. Sakidar Kir, Aldiki. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna, just to save myself from embarrassment, we're just gonna. If you would like to look up who's in this movie and not butcher those names, go on Wikipedia or IMDb. I will say, preference up top, they are all wonderful in this film.
Oh, no, they really are. Yeah, they are.
All right. So if you've never listened to this podcast before, and this is your first time joining us, what an odd one to jump in on. But also, what we're going to do, we're going to break down the plot of the film. Then we're going to discuss the monkey of the movie. And we're going to see what happens if you take the monkey out of the film. And then we're going to determine in our rating system on Cinemonkey whether the movie is a monkey see, monkey do, or a monkey see, monkey don't. And then also, just because this movie is still in theaters, I want to preface, they're full spoilers. We're going to talk full spoilers of this movie starting right at the gate. All right, you ready, David?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, so the movie opens. We get a shot, this little boy and his mother, and they are reading this book. And the mother is telling the story of this monkey that ate a mango, right? Mango is kind of the sun, right? It's the power of the sun is harnessed by this monkey, and the monkey becomes this warrior for the people of this particular religion. I have to be very careful because this is a area where I don't know too much about.
Yeah, no, same. But what I got out of it is like it starts off like almost a storybook beginning of the character. I think his name is Kid. Dev Patel's the name for the character. But yeah, he's like talking about this monkey god who mistook the sun as a mango, and then was struck by a god, but gained powers, if I remember correctly, from his grandma, begging the gods to resurrect them, and then that's how he became. Well, in the movie they call him Hanuman, but technically, essentially, the Monkey Man. So. Yeah, it's kind of a nice little start to the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it eases you into this world, kind of breaking down the barriers of, okay, this is the story. It is a legend. It is something that seems to be passed on through these people in India. And it's like a real story. And then after we finish this kind of storybook version of it, we cut to a boxing ring and we see this gorilla mask on this man. And boy, oh boy, is this guy getting beat up in this boxing club.
And purposefully, just to kind of be like a foil for, I think, like the wrestler or the boxer of the match, I think. And then Sharlto Copley, who comes out as the announcer. Great guy, star from District 9 and other movies. I was really happy to see him. And I wasn't the only one. In the screening that I was in, it was like a packed house. And silently in my mind, I saw that Sharlto Copley was there as the announcer. And I'm like, oh, cool, great. Like, oh, and it's nice seeing him again. But there was a guy next to me, and he loudly said, "Oh yeah."
That's like how I felt when I saw it. I was like, "Oh, he's in this. Look at that."
Yeah.
If you need a South African man, he's your guy, and he's the guy. In just almost anything. It was funny because there's a trailer that played right before this for Boy Kills World.
Oh yeah,
which is an upcoming movie. I don't believe there's a monkey in it, so we probably won't talk about it. But he's playing almost the exact same role he has in this movie, where he's like a crooked announcer for some underground fighting ring. So I was like, oh, that's fun. That's kind of his little niche right now. So Sharlto Copley, he gives this big speech, and Dev Patel's Monkey Man gets knocked out and knocked down. Can't believe I'm getting a phone call on the podcast. I'll cut all this out. It's fine. Anyway, so Sharlto Copley, he gives this big speech and about, not speech, but he kind of yells at everybody to like get Dev Patel's body off of the stage, and we see Dev Patel back in the locker room, and he takes the mask off. He wasn't bleeding, but you just kind of see these like scars and stuff on his hands. And Sharlto Copley refuses to pay him the full amount because he has some sort of blood clause in his boxing in the contract, like, I guess.
If he bleeds more for the spectacle, then he gets paid more. And to backtrack a bit from that, how cool was the title card for the movie when he just walks through and you just see like the title fade in between Kid as he's walking to the locker room after the match, which I thought was,
it's great. Just so people know, this is Dev Patel's first movie where he is directing, and he knocks it out of the park. For a first-time director, like, it feels so confident, and you can clearly see his influences throughout all of these films. I mean, this movie was pitched as John Wick in Mumbai. Not quite that, but like you see shades of it, and you see shades of these other influences. Like this movie, and we'll get to it a little bit later, was influenced by like Korean action films like The Raid and Bruce Lee. Like Dev Patel grew up watching Bruce Lee and like loves Bruce Lee so much that he was like, I need to make these action films that aren't as soulless and mindless, like something like The Expendables 4 or something like that.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
and like you said, one of our favorite films, The Meg 2. But but yeah, that is a soulless movie. There's nothing in it. Or even, and I don't mean this lightly, I do enjoy the films, but even like the Kong movies we've talked about on these podcasts, like they're fun, and especially like the later ones, like there's a little, like they're made for mass audiences, and this isn't a movie that is for everybody, I will say.
Oh yeah, absolutely not. Yeah.
And you know, it is R-rated and there are adult themes, and it is kind of like there's a lot of people talk in Hindu. Right? Is that the language?
Yeah. It's like throughout the movie, like they do speak Hindu, or sometimes where they speak in English, but then there's those subtitles attached to them too. I'm sure that was probably from like test screenings or anything. But yeah, as we'll get into it as we kind of go over to the rest of the movie. But because of the violence and everything, it's not entirely accessible. But also we'll get into this later in a specific scene. But I found that at least from the people I watched it with, it's essentially really kind of a crowd pleaser in terms of the story.
I went to like a 1:00 screening on a Monday, and so there wasn't a lot of people in the audience, but even the few of us that were there, we were everyone. The funny parts are funny. The action is intense. When something kind of crazy happens, you hear you can feel it in everyone in the audience, and I think that was special kind of movie to kind of get that reaction from everybody. And I'm sure you saw it with probably more than the 15 people that I saw it with, but.
It was a packed house.
It just what a time. Anyway, back to the film. So he doesn't get the full money. We see he's kind of the struggling guy. He just needs to make money to make ends meet is what we kind of get from him. What I kind of love about this film is it doesn't tell you everything. You have to piece things together, and they do like explain stuff a little bit later, but it's not like, hey, I need money to pay the bills. And like, you don't see like the past due slip Like, he's like, oh, they're going to shut off my electricity. It's like, oh, this is a guy who is doing what he needs to do to survive. And what he knows what to do is he needs to get beat up because that's what's going to pay him more money in the boxing ring. Then after this boxing kind of scene, we cut to streets of Mumbai, or the city of Yatana. That's what it says here on Wikipedia. And there's this homeless guy. He's in a wheelchair and he's trying to sell his like trinkets. And he's going up to people on the street and he's like, please, I need to, like, I haven't eaten in 2 days. And everyone's ignoring him because he's like in a rich part of town and they're kind of shoving him aside. And he like does like a con to steal this woman's purse, where he like knocks over her drink and then knocks over his stuff. And so he's like fumbling around. And while she's all distracted, he steals her purse. And then we just see him kind of roll away and pretend he's innocent. And then we see this kind of fun exchange where how the purse kind of travels from person to person throughout the city. And it's clearly like this was planned. And so there's like a network of people that are passing it from one person to another. You see it go through buildings, through children running to like another woman who then passes it to a guy who passes it through his like kitchen window to another person, and just kind of down the street. And then eventually it winds up in the hands of Dev Patel, and he opens up her purse and he sees a business card for the King Hotel, right? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's like a crown. Yeah, it's like a crown symbol that, like, at the end of that whole, it's like, oh, what a sequence, right?
Yeah, no,
like,
I was like, oh, this is
it.
fun. This is
yeah, and it's like the crown symbol when he finally gets, they see the business card, for the hotel, and then it cuts to the actual building with the symbol, and you're like, okay, all right, that's it. Like now we're the movie's headed places, but yeah.
That's what I thought. And this movie, it changes what you think it's going to be from, like, I'll explain a little later, but like it changes from like what I expected it to go from. Like, if I hadn't seen the trailer, I'd be like, what is this actually going to be? It's like, oh, there's a down like boxing guy, and then he steals this purse and he winds up going to the King's hotel kind of lounge, whatever it really is. And he meets the woman whose the purse was stolen from. He gives it back to her, and we find out she's like this no nonsense manager and businesswoman, and she really doesn't take it from anybody. She does not care what you're doing, and she tries to offer him some money and usher him out the door. And he's just like, please, I need a job. I'll do whatever it takes. He's like, look at my hands, and you see his hands, they're covered in these essentially bleach marks. And he's like, I will do the lowest level job. I will do anything possible. Please, I just need to make some money. And I guess she kind of feels for him because she's like, oh, he's doing a good thing. I'll give him a job as like a dishwasher, essentially a janitor in my establishment here. And so now he has a job, and we're like, okay, great. Now he's moving up in the world, kid. And we come to find out that this hotel establishment is kind of this place where seedy people like to go to, or the elite like to go to do seedy things. It's a high profile club and restaurant. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. So then we see Dev Patel's character. He has a job as a dishwasher, and he's cleaning some dishes, and he meets this other gentleman. His name is Alfonso. I was like, that's a fun name for this guy.
Yeah.
And he's kind of got this like,
fun character too. Yeah.
Yeah. He's got this like bum leg, and you see him limping all around, and he's like making fun of the staff and everything. And he goes up to Dev Patel and he asks him what his name is and like he's new and everything. And Dev Patel says his name is Bobby, which we come to learn is actually the name of the bleach that he uses.
Yeah, from like a simple pan. As you follow Alfonso, you see the bottle, and it's like Bobby's bleach. And oh man, it's like that kind of visual choice made just get right to the point where even like the first 15 minutes, and then I'm like, oh, Dev Patel, he's got this in the bag already. He's like just so confident, and I was actually laughing out loud when I saw that. I'm like, that's awesome. That's
yeah. Well, it is a funny moment because you're like, oh, he's lying. Like he's yeah. It's like there's like this whole the first act of this movie. You're not quite sure what Dev Patel's plan is, which I love. It's not like Ocean's 11 or even John Wick, where he's like, I gotta kill the guy. I need to, like, you just kind of seeing this guy kind of go through. You're like, clearly he's up to something. He wants something from this particular woman in this particular place, but we don't know what it is. And so he just kind of goes throughout his day. He cleans dishes and does stuff. We cut to him like in his house, and we see he lives in a place where he's with like 30 to 40 other guys. They're all sleeping on the floor. Like, you can really tell, like, this is a guy who's struggling. You feel for him. You're like, oh, he's just trying to better himself, and he's trying to kind of get ahead in this world. And so maybe he does have to pull a scam to get ahead, but he knows this is his way in. At least that's what I thought at this point in the movie. And I'm like, okay, well, this is his plan. Boxing wasn't working out. He doesn't really want to get beat up anymore. Let me try a different technique. And that's conning my way into this business.
Yeah.
And
no, that's it's similar because like I actually hadn't seen the trailer for it. I just went in like knowing what it was going to be about.
Good for you. That's correct move, I will say.
Yeah. And I was thinking the same thing because I thought like I know he has to go in there. He has like a secret plan, but it doesn't tell you. It actually comes in a bit like around the halfway point where you realize that. You don't really get the plan until about an hour into, or maybe like 40 minutes into this movie. Because what I love about this movie is that it's a lot of setup and then the payoff is great. You see him, and we'll get to that right now. Like he thinks of a plan. You don't see him think of the plan, but he comes up with a plan and then he works really hard and you see time pass and then he executes that plan to the best of his ability. Yeah. And it's like kind of the main purpose of the first 40 minutes is that I really appreciated was just Dev having you like invest with the character by all means, and then focusing on like the bigger plot later on, so that you can already have that set when you're like focused on Kid, and like you said, make the rest of the later half all worth it. But yeah, it gets into some crazy stuff we'll get into in a bit. Yeah,
and so there's one day he's in the kitchen and he's going to meet a particular. He's going to meet the manager for some reason, and Alfonso's already in the room, and she's yelling at Alfonso and everything, and she has him come in, and Alfonso is like, "Hey, I have this thing is going on." She makes him turn around, and you can kind of see he's like looking through the glass of like a painting to see like the code she's putting into her safe, and you see this mound of money and jewels and whatever the heck is in this safe. So he clocks Alfonso. Okay, so Alfonso's someone that this woman kind of trusts because she let him like be in the room and like he's doing some sort of shady stuff for her, and he kind of uses this guy to his advantage. And so he follows Alfonso out of the room and he tries to convince him to like let him in on whatever he's doing. And Alfonso's like, "Bobby, listen, no, you're not one of the people. Like you're not going to get away with this. Like just do your job and move on." And then Dev Patel tells him, "Hey, what if you take your money that you have right now? I'm going to give you an address. You're going to go there. You're going to bet against the monkey, and you're going to make a bunch of money." And the guy Alfonso's like, "What do you mean? Like, why? How do you know this?" And he goes, "Because I'm the monkey." And so we cut to the boxing ring again, and we see Kid or Bobby just kind of throwing fights, and Alfonso wins a bunch of money. And so now he's like, "This is my best friend. Bobby is going to make me so much money." And all Bobby wants in return is a promotion. So he moves up in the world, and we see this elevator shot of the different floors. And I thought that this movie was going to be, this is going to be his journey from the bottom to the top of this building. Like an inspiration for this movie was The Raid. If you haven't seen The Raid, which I actually haven't, but I do know, like it's a story of this action film where it takes place in an office building, right?
Yeah, it's an office building where there's like a sort of a crime syndicate in there, and the lead character, he's a police guard, and he's kind of infiltrating that, but he works his way to the top to try to. He's like there's some connection to him. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it is similar in structure where Dev said he was influenced by the first Raid on this same guy trying to go from the bottom all the way to the top to reach an ultimate goal, and along with the action that comes with it. But yeah, it was very similar, and that was actually my ultimate thought when watching the movie with like the red colors and like the violence. Not just that, but a Netflix movie called The Night Comes for Us. I think it's from the team that also made The Raid, but not the director of The Raid that made it, but is Netflix. It's I think the most violent compared to like The Raid and Monkey Man, but it also follows that same structure. And I think it works well with Monkey Man, and no, but you're right. It's of Kid, the story of him at this point, like in the movie, we don't know what his ultimate goal is, but you see he's quickly working his way up to get somewhere, to reach something.
And well, it kind of reminded me of a video game, and I'm like, he's going to work each floor. He's going to come up with some scheme to trick and lie and get his way to the top so he can get out of squalor. I thought this
could work.
Another movie would do that. That's not this movie though. So
in another universe, this would make for a great video game, actually, and that was also my thought halfway. Then, yeah.
And so Bobby or Kid, he gets a job as like a waiter at the VIP lounge. So he's working in the restaurant now, and we see Alfonso kind of taking him around, introducing him to all the players, and we see all these political figures, and he's saying, oh, this guy over here, he runs the banks, and this guy over there, he's running for president, and then that guy over there, that's the chief of police. And Dev Patel stops and is like, huh, okay, and kind of just observes this guy. And we wind up, he winds up trying to serve a particular people, and he's just doing his job. So we see him kind of, again, going through his day-to-day, and he winds up at one table, and he's pouring wine into a glass, and the patron gets upset because he's like, that's a white wine
it's a
glass.
White wine glass, yeah.
Like, you clearly are new here. And there's a woman next to this guy, and she's just like, leave him alone. Like, come on. And he's like, no, I want someone who does it right. And she kind of brushes him off. And then the guy starts to make some moves on this woman. And it's not kind of implied. She is an escort for the building, or a prostitute who is she works there when the wealthy men come in. She's one of several women who work in this building and are assigned to, I guess, these particular people. And he's feeling her up, and Dev Patel gets very emotional about this, and he kind of runs out of the building, and he runs into this little alleyway where he's on the ground, and he's kind of like, you can see this affects him in some capacity. And then we get my favorite character of the movie, and not in it for too long.
Dog.
But we get this little dog that runs around the corner, and it's this hungry dog, and Dev Patel feels for this dog, and he reaches into the trash and he feeds the dog. And the prostitute winds up coming out, and she explains the situation, and she is like, hey, listen, like, if you don't feel comfortable with this kind of work, you should probably get a job somewhere else, because this is it. Like, this is what we do. This is this building. And
it's like whether he likes it or not, just kind of say, well, he like cuts us like suck it up and just do the job. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's kind of being like, it's not quite that. Like, I get it, but like, there's more at stake here. And she's just like, stop feeding the dog, because that dog's just going to keep coming back. And then we kind of see a montage of Dev Patel doing his job day after day after day. And he keeps feeding the dog, and he's feeding the dog. The dog's learning to trust him and like him. And then we also see Dev Patel taking whatever little money he has, and he's walking in this shady area, and he knocks on a door, and he has a passcode, and it's like, oh, what's this? Is he a part of something else? Is this going to be like a heist situation? And he's taken down into this basement, and he gives whatever money he has. Actually, that's not true. He goes to a food stand, where he utters a secret phrase, and they wrap the money in some sort of leaf, and then a little boy like leads him to the other secret location.
That's right, yeah.
Then he knocks on the door, and the little boy lets him in, and the guy's like, this is all the money you have? And he's like, this is it. And then they take him down to the basement. We see that this guy is a gun dealer. And he's like, you like John Wick? I have the gun from John Wick. And then Dev Patel's like, I can't afford the gun from John Wick. Can I have the cheapest and easiest gun you have? And he gives this revolver and with a couple bullets. And then throughout this kind of montage of Dev Patel working and feeding the dog, you see him go to just this abandoned area, and he's like practicing shooting like on this mural. And he starts out and he's not very good. And then over the course of the montage, as training montages do, which we get a couple of those in this movie, he winds up becoming a better shot. And we go, okay, here it is. And so he goes into work one day, and he's getting pat down and everything. And he's doing a job, but he's running a little late, and he winds up running into Alfonso, and Alfonso's like, where have you been? It's been forever. And we see Alfonso do like a giant line of cocaine. And then we see that Dev Patel is a cocaine waiter in the VIP lounge. And he's like passed these out to everybody. And Dev Patel's just doing his job, and he's passing everything out. And he winds up taking a break for a moment, and he runs outside, and we see the dog, but something is wrapped around the dog's neck, and it's the gun that he bought. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah, he snuck it in that way. Friend the dog. better than John Wick. Dog does something.
Oh yeah, and definitely, and yeah, totally. That's the cut above the rest. No, but one also in that montage that you mentioned, it's like there's like you see him going day after day in working in the hotel, and he passes by like a metal detector, and you see that he's clear and clear to go through. But moments before the dog gives him the gun, then you realize, oh, he has the gun. He's bought the gun, but when he goes into work, he doesn't have it on him because of the metal detector. And I'm like, oh well, what's happening now? And then lo and behold, the dog comes in with the gun, and again, like a cool last moment, just gonna go in, like it's gonna go down.
Yeah, it's like, okay, and this is when the movie kind of kicks into a different gear, and it's like, okay,
yeah,
this is a different movie now. We started out where, okay, this was gonna be some sort of film about a guy rising through the ranks. Nope, not so much. Okay, now it's about a guy who has a gun in this club. He wants something, and you kind of see he wants something from this police captain, and he goes back into the VIP lounge, and he has the gun kind of in his chest jacket pocket in his pants. Yeah. He goes back in and he does his job a little bit more, and he's passing out the cocaine, and he comes across the police captain again, and he's there and he's doing cocaine. Dev Patel goes to the bathroom or a janitor's closet, and he's kind of hyperventilating because he's like, okay, this is like, you just kind of see his emotions run through him, and it's like, okay, this is it. My plan is happening.
Yeah.
And it hands over, and you see the bleach again, and I'm like, oh my god. And then it cuts back to him with the cocaine in these little vials, and he passes it out to the police captain, and he snorts that whole thing, and I'm like, oh, look at him go. Look at execute that plan, Dev Patel. And the police captain starts to choke and bleed, and he just kind of gets up and he goes to the bathroom, and Dev Patel follows him in there, and he locks the door. And I was like, oh, so this guy's just going to pass out and die or choke from all of the the bleach that he just snorted. And,
I thought I thought that was already going to be the end of him there. But no,
I was like, okay, moving
going,
on, and he'll like help cover up the body or something to move on.
Yeah.
But no, then we get a scene. I would say very reminiscent. It's the low budget version of the bathroom fight scene from Mission Impossible Fallout.
Yeah,
like in that movie, you have this nice pristine club bathroom. Everything is shiny and nice. This is just a dirty, grungy little bathroom. It does have a fish tank on the wall, but it's like,
which is nice.
But this is still a seedy bathroom, and I'm like, oh yeah. And so the door is locked. Dev Patel pulls out the gun, and the police chief is like, what are you going to do? Shoot me? And Dev Patel fires and I think grazes him. But there's another guy that's also in the bathroom who was going to the bathroom, who's taking a number 2. And he comes out and he immediately rushes Dev Patel. And they have this brawl in the bathroom that's brutal. And Dev Patel shoots the fish tank, and water's flowing everywhere. And they're just kind of scrapping and scrounging at each other as they punch. And clearly the police chief has more years of fighting. Like, I thought, because going into this movie, it's like, oh, this is going to be John Wick. I'm like, okay, so now it's the John Wick time. But like, Dev Patel's not a bad fighter at this point, but he's also not a good fighter either.
No, he's just like super nervous getting into it, understandably. But you realize like it does turn into John Wick at that point, but it doesn't quite get there because like even he's like tearing up. He's like nervous. He's like so scared.
It's John Wick, but he's bad at it.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that. It's like, oh, okay, this guy is struggling. He's not a superhuman. He is a person who is making regular mistakes, and this is not his forte. Like, he's not trained by a extreme military. He wasn't a part of an organization. It's a guy who was just like, I think I can do this. Yeah. I have some fighting capability because I box or whatever, and like I learned how to shoot a gun. But he quickly learns he's kind of out of his element. This is not, maybe he should have trained a little bit more for this moment, because he keeps attacking the guy, the police chief. And it's just, the police chief just kind of gets the better hand of him. He does wind up knocking him out at one point. He picks up there's a struggle between the police chief, Dev Patel, and then the third guy that's also in the bathroom. And the third guy is reaching for the gun because he's clearly on the police chief's side, and he sees that this is a huge problem. And Dev Patel gets to him, and the guy falls, and he hits his head on the toilet that he had just come out of. So it's just dirty and gross, and the gun falls into the toilet, and Dev Patel has to reach into the toilet and get the gun. And I'm like, this is the grunginess I'm looking for. And I'm like, yes, this is it. And so he kind of comes up, like he's still struggling to shoot the police chief who just won't go down. Mm-hmm. And it's not happening. He realizes, I'm not going to beat this guy, even though everyone's bleeding, everyone's hurt at this point. And Dev Patel picks up a piece of the toilet, and he smashes the rest of this fish tank, and the water goes everywhere. And he climbs through the fish tank to the other side, because on the other side is like a maintenance area, probably where they feed the fish. And he knows that's a way to get out. And he runs through, and he sees this window, and you're like, okay, this is going to be his big moment. He's going to rush, and he's going to run through the window, and he starts running, and he jumps into the window, and he clearly just can't crack it. And he falls down, and he's like, and he just kind of, he's struggling, because you feel the tension. He's hurt at this point as well, because he's stabbed or shot, because the police chief had a knife in his
but like his abdomen, during the fight.
He snuck a knife in, and he winds up stabbing him a couple times. And so and Dev Patel does like use that knife to stab the police chief back, but it's just a mess. And he's like, this is not what I expected. This is not how I wanted this to go down. Yeah. And so he winds up breaking the window, and he jumps out the window, and he's running throughout the city, and you just see him running across the rooftops, and the police are after him, because the police chief was just stabbed and almost threatened to be killed. And there's helicopters circling around him, and he winds up jumping from a couple buildings from rooftop to rooftop, and you just feel the franticness of it.
Yeah. And when I was thinking, like, when that shot, you see like him being chased by police, and then he's on the building, and the helicopter comes in. Like, my first thought was like, how much did this movie cost to make? Because that was just like, it seemed like so big budget. And I'm actually looking at it now. It's only $10 million in budget, and
it's $10 million. I mean, the only kind of big thing I lied. He doesn't actually get through the window, but the big act, because I forgot there's another action sequence before he's running throughout the tops of the buildings, is he then runs down to the garage, because earlier when he was taking Alfonso to the boxing match, Alfonso shows his like vehicle, which is a tuk-tuk, which is like a little kind of like motorcycle. If you haven't seen one, it's a motorcycle with like a kind of a larger back that has a few seats on it.
Yeah.
And it's Nicki Minaj, he calls it, because it's nice headlights and a big bumper or something.
Yeah. And they play that out by showing shots of like a Lamborghini or luxury cars, and you think it's one of them, and it cuts to like, oh, that's my car, and it cuts to the tuk-tuk, which I thought was so hilarious. Yeah.
Oh, it's a great joke. Also, during this club sequence and the fight with the police chief, we get some great needle drops.
Yeah, no, I actually wanted to kind of dive a bit into that. Like just backtracking to that whole sequence of like him there in the club. There was like remix versions of Roxanne from the Police and Somebody to Love by Jefferson Airplane. It's like it's a great sequence, but for me, like I really love the originals, and I just was more focused on the remixes. I'm like, I got my Shazam real quick. I'm like, I gotta know where this is from. I'm like, this is so amazing. It's like one of those moments I will watch a movie and there's like a song that's used, like a great needle drop, and I just get mad at myself because I'm like, damn it. Like it's like, oh, that's good. Oh, that's a great needle drop. But no, it's the rest of the soundtrack, other than the score, there's more into that, especially another classic rock song that actually is like very important to the movie. I don't know if it was like a Dev's choice or anyone from his team to kind of choose those songs, but they all fit well, especially with like how brooding those remixes were. At first I confused it for the score. That it was like tense because of it. But then I looked up on Spotify the remixes and I thought, no, that's all the song. And it just ties into like both the seediness, how cool that whole sequence is, and just that tension that builds of, you know, before he confronts the police in the bathroom, and then it all builds to the action scene. But I think we were talking about him during the chase scene goes inside like a brothel, right? And there's like another fight
so after he steals Alfonso's tuk-tuk, and he's like running throughout the city, and that's when we see the police cars chase him, and there's a helicopter. It gets flipped over and destroyed at one point, and he runs into a brothel, and then there's another fight scene because I was like, okay, this one's fun, and we see him like go through the brothel, and he's just like, can I lie low here? Is this something that I could stop? And then we see the pimp or the owner of the brothel, and he's got this big axe, and he's like, get the hell out of here right now. And he starts swinging and attacking Dev Patel, and it's a great fight with this axe. Almost
like a ballet with it, because
yes.
Yeah, because it's choreographed like one that's he attacks kid with the axe, and it crashes onto the wall, but his neck is pinned down between the axe and the wall, and he tries sliding it, but he slides with the axe as he's like attacking.
I loved that so much.
And the camera moves with it. That was so amazing. Yeah.
So just kind of a point to jump in here regarding the action and why, like when we were like, oh, this is so cool that those shots are the way they are, especially like you see a lot of point of view shots of the characters, and then also the camera moves so fluidly with the action. And Dev Patel wanted to have these fight scenes feel like a Bruce Lee film or something Jackie Chan would do. It was uninterrupted takes. And so he would spend hours in the morning before he would like direct the film and go in and to shoot the scenes with the stunt team. And he ran into one of the stunt choreographers was performing previs, which is essentially the stunt team records a version of the action sequences before the film. And this is for almost any action film. So that way they could show the director, like, this is what we think the choreography will look like in this particular scene. And Dev Patel saw the choreography being done and the shots being shot on this guy's iPhone. And he asked the guy, he was like, do you want to be a DP? And he was like, yeah, one day. And he was like, no, I'm asking, do you want to be a DP like right now? And so like the DP for these action sequences, and maybe the entire film, I'm going to look that up right now. I'm not entirely sure if it was the entire film or just the action sequences, but there's a third stunt guy. So it's Dev Patel, who is in every action scene in this movie, whoever he's fighting in that particular scene. And then the camera operator is a trained stunt person as well. And that's why the camera is able to weave in and out of these particular moments. And like you said, like the scene where the accident slides across the thing, that's something that was probably shot out and planned by this cinematographer. I don't have his name in front of me here. Sharon Mir. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, Sharon Mir. Yeah,
Sharon Mir. Yeah, you say it better than me. And so, like, I just found that to be such a fascinating way to shoot this movie. Is like, oh, Dev Patel put a lot of trust in the people he was working with, even though this movie is, in his way, his baby. And it's every director, but his heart and soul is in every inch of this, and he's like, he really trusted the people around him to make the best possible product because he wanted this to be something a little bit more than Kong versus Godzilla.
we're basically, every punch kind of meant something, and not just towards like him in the story, but you could really sense that. And back to the iPhone thing, I did read somewhere that it was also done from budget constraints and also like from the troubles they went into. I think they had like both an iPhone and at one point in certain shots, like how it weaves through a lot, they would actually have the cameras like tied like a swing to go through like from place to place with that. And that's why like you notice, and like not just in the fight scenes, but almost every single shot is like super deep focus with it's like the rest is out of focus, like super close up, even like in the quietest scene. And I think that's what ties into like the griminess and the tension of everything, where it's I actually was at one point counting to myself like okay, there's only a handful of wide shots where everything's gonna clear, and then the next time you like there's like intercutting between scenes, even if it isn't an action scene. I just noticed, I'm like, wow, like the shot is way too close, and you see a lot of like out of focus lights and everything, and it just ties into that. And I think that comes with the confidence that Dev made for the movie, and a bit of the inaccessibility, because it's like super specific. It's super tied into to like this world where it's so cutthroat, literally. Speaking of the axe scene, and I think that's for me, it was like the most immersive I felt, even in some aspects beyond like The Raid or these other movies that he was influenced by. But it really shows. Yeah.
No, it's so cool. I mean, like you're saying, like with the budget constraints and everything. I read yesterday that apparently, like on any, if you've ever made a short or a movie before, good for you, congratulations. But you're gonna run into so many problems. And this movie only had a budget of $10 million, and they were saying that locations that they were rehearsing at for months would just fall through. And then so he's like, okay, we have to improvise, do another thing. Cameras would break, and they're like, pull out your iPhone. We're gonna film this scene on an iPhone, I guess. Or we have a couple GoPros. Whatever, let's shoot on that. Sure.
Yeah.
we got to do it. We got to go. The innovation and just kind of the scrappiness of it just adds to the overall film. And you can tell some shots are like on iPhone and it's in some of the fight scenes, but there's a charm to it. There's something unique and special, and the low budget quality of it adds to this underdog story that we're seeing.
Yeah, again, it's a great movie, but like watching it, because like you notice how some shots are like not entirely clear because there's a shot on iPhone. It's like the scrappy feel. You could almost feel, because of the tension of everything, you could almost sense as if the movies could fall apart at any single moment. But thankfully it does not. And like you said, that is the part of its charm as to why it's like so entertaining.
Yeah, and so back to the movie, Dev Patel winds up beating the brothel owner, and he sees this little girl that's like hiding under the brothel, like one of the beds, and he's like, please run away from here right now. Like there's awful things that are about to happen. And the little girl runs away, and Dev Patel, this is when we get to that shot where he's running on the rooftops, and we see the police chasing after him in the helicopter, and he's running, and he has literally nowhere to go, and the police shoot him through the chest. And he
goes down,
and he falls into a river like James Bond in Skyfall, and just plummets in, waking up, and he's in this temple. He's not quite sure, like he's clearly very hurt, and he's not quite sure like what's going on. And we meet the character of Alpha, who is a transgender woman who runs this temple for transgender women and people that are kind of misplaced. And I guess Alpha wound up dragging Dev Patel out of the water and into the temple and patched him up, and tells him he needs to rest. He needs to maintain his strength, and he can get back out there. And Dev Patel's like, well, they're going to come looking, and they're like, no one's looking for you here. We're shunned even by, like, no one wants to come near us. And so in a way, they tell him it's essentially the perfect hideout for him to heal his wounds. And then we cut to the police chief, and I forgot to mention this other guy. There's this figure that's kind of been lurking around in the first act, and you just see him like on billboards, on TV. He's this guy who's like a guru of some sort, and he kind of has this cult that follows him. And he's always preaching about being good to yourself and the people, and what he believes is you must follow him because he is going to lead the people into the light, and like what he believes is great for society and everything. And we see that this guy that's been on TV and billboards, and it kind of dystopian-esque, because there's scenes early on in the movie where we're showing the scenes of this city, and you see these just like big billboards on the sides of buildings. And I'm like, I've never been to India. I don't know if that's how advertisements kind of play there, but I'm like, do people watch these big Blade Runner-esque billboards for gurus on the side of the road? It doesn't seem like there's a lot of wealthy people in this particular city. So
yeah. No, and
I don't know who they're tricking or who they're gonna try to convince to come to their side, but
no, you described it as like shots of like him. It's like almost Blade Runner like, and you look at it like, I didn't even question that. I just thought like, oh, cool. Like I guess people really do follow this guy. Yeah, he's kind of like influencing them to.
Yeah, he's an influencer.
Yeah, in a grand sense. Yeah,
he's a grand influencer. And then we see this TV kind of spot that's this woman is interviewing this guru guy. She's like asking him these tough questions like, so what you believe is kind of radical, like what do you think? And he just kind of brushes everything off and he's like, no, don't worry, it's for the best of the people. What I believe is for the good of the people. And then she's like, well, you cleared all this land and you built a compound and you put like this farmland is now a concrete like compound. And he's just like, yes, it's a place for my people to stay and thrive and they do better. And they're like, what about the terrible working conditions? He goes, you call it working conditions, I call it worship or something like that.
Yeah.
And you go, this guy's bad news. And then you do find out that this guy, the police chief, goes to him and is like, hey, listen, like there was an attempt on my life. That there's this weird guy. And he's like, you better solve this problem. And like, who is this guy? And the police chief's like, oh, he's a nobody. And I love this line. The guru guy, we'll call the lion because that's kind of the whole personality he's built himself around. He tells the police chief, hey, you better get this guy before this nobody becomes a somebody. And I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And then we get back to Dev Patel in the temple.
And it's
did you want to touch on something else? Yeah.
Oh no. I remember that line as soon as you said it, where I thought like, okay, it directly ties into just following Dev the whole time. And this is where the movie just kind of really just takes a breather on. Yeah,
the movie stops for the better because it was just such an intense moment before. And okay, Dev tried to execute this plan. The plan went horribly wrong. He accomplished none of his goals. He's made himself a terrorist to the country.
And like any hero's journey, he learns. He
has to learn. And so Dev is taken in as a part of this community and he's still recovering and he's clearly like he was shot through the chest. So he's going to take some time. Yeah. And he attends this ceremony at night while people are eating. And we see this guy who plays the bongos. And it's a fun
He plays it so well in that scene.
I saw an interview with Dev Patel this morning where he was like the particular drum or bongo that this guy uses. That guy is the best in the world to ever play that instrument, according to Dev Patel. Yeah. And Dev like begged him to come to the movie. And the guy was like, I don't know. And he wound up convincing him. He was like, you got me for 2 weeks. And this guy is, and so he's a part of this scene and he's playing it. And he kind of tells a story through song about a husband and wife. You don't hear anything, like there's no lyrics to it, but he makes different tones come out of this drum. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's like he uses one bongo as like the husband's voice and the other like bongo with like I think like a wider circumference. It's like the wife's voice and just like and like in harmony together. That whole sequence, like as much as the story takes a breather, I thought that whole sequence was just so awesome, as good as any action.
Yeah, no, it is a nice moment to like recoup, and it's like okay, this is probably it's a touchy subject, especially in India. It's like the transgender community is one that needs more representation. It's like, hey, like listen, everyone's enjoying some music, and we get that breather, and we join Dev as he kind of taken aback, and he's like, I need to like regain my strength. I need to go back out there. And Alpha, the head of the community, she comes up to him and is like, hey, listen, I have this magic drug that we can use on you. It's going to give you the most intense pain of your life, but you're going to come out better for it if you are strong enough. And he's like, yep, give it to me, please. I need it. And they break up whatever the herb is, and they shove it into this like blow dart thing. And she blows the
like powder or the mixture
into Dev's face. And we get a flashback to Dev's childhood and what he went through. And we see Dev's mother, and we see glimpses of her throughout the movie. And we see that he was a part of this community in this village that was out in the forest somewhere. And they were probably farmers of some sort. And the army rolls into town, or the police roll into town, whatever the particular people. And we see the police chief there, and he is ordered by the guru to burn down this entire village.
Yeah, to take over their land. The land that they're in by kind of raiding their houses.
Yeah, and they raid the houses, and all of these buildings and huts and everything are being burnt to the ground. And it's a kind of a harrowing scene because the police chief bursts into Dev Patel's house, and Dev Patel as a child, it's a child version of the character. I just want to say Dev Patel is there as a man, but he's hiding in the rafters, and he's probably like 10 or something, and he sees the police chief comes in. He attempts to rape his mother, and the mother fights back, and the police chief beats her to death and kills her, and they pour gasoline on her body and burn the village down. And we see like Dev's character run up to his mother and try to save her, even though her body is laying there. And we find out that's how he gets the chemical scars on his body. And we see all the cuts and bruises and everything from there, because the fire goes up and burns his arms. And then we kind of zoom out of that and we cut to a puppet show.
That was a wild cut, but it was awesome.
I was like, because I'm watching the movie, I'm like, oh, that's going to be that's intense. That's kind of an intense moment there, and it's good motivation, good backstory, and you see, okay, so this is his goal. He wants to get revenge for the death of his mother and the death of his village, and so it cuts to a puppet show, and it kind of retells the story from earlier of the monkey god coming down to defeat an evil emperor of some sort. And then we see Dev get back up, and he's like, okay, I got this. And then there's a rice bag that he hangs up, and he makes that a punching bag, and we get the greatest Rocky montage in the last 10 years. I loved this so much.
Since Creed, I think. Yeah.
It was so good. And so like you see him like trying to punch the bag and gain the strength. And then who do we get back? Well, we get the drum man. We get the bongo man back.
The bongo person, yeah.
And he starts
like motivating, like making a rhythm, and just punches the punching bag with the rhythm. And it's
he would do like boom, boom, boom. And then Dev Patel's character would like punch the bag in that rhythm back. And it was so fun. And then you see that play out, and you see him get stronger. And it kind of brings the community together as well to watch Dev Patel get stronger and like figure out he gets his groove back, how to fight. Now, is this from the magic root that was blown in his face? Was it from, is it kind of mystical? Maybe a little bit, but he gets his thing back, and it's just such a fun sequence. Like the people in my audience were like, yeah, like when he eventually, after like 2-3 minutes of him kind of going through and training and learning, and you see him do like the classic montage stuff, like he's holding buckets of water with his arms, and he's got to keep it up, and Alpha's there like being like, you can do it, you got to keep going, like the trainer,
or Alpha's just nodding, like and seeing seeing it all happen, and I'm like, like the fist in the air, like hell yeah. And then it's like tying in with the seriousness of like him being like building up strength to go back. It's like you see, was it the guru and more of his speeches, or like more of the flashbacks, and then news, and then actual news footage that was tied into that. And I think we'll kind of dive into that a bit later, but it's like actual like live news footage that from CNN that was taken kind of spliced into that in terms of like the political undertones, but the marriage of that, especially with such a fun montage sequence. It's like no wonder people in my audience, they were like clapping in between that whole montage, because it was just so good. And that's not the only applause that happens until way later, but no, but yeah, it's that's how the movie just slowly ramps up into the ultimate denouement of carnage that we'll get into for the rest of the movie. Yeah.
Also, the guru guy, just to kind of give a little bit more background, he starts backing, I guess, a very extremist political leader that's on the rise, because there's an election coming up as well. And he backs this guy during this montage, and it sets the stage for the third act of this film. And so Dev Patel, he's super powered, he's strong, and he's ready to go. He breaks down that rice bag, and all the rice flows out, and everyone's like, he's done it. This is our champion. This is people. And you kind of go, okay, where is he going to go from here? And he breaks open the donation box for the temple, and he takes all of the money and he gives it to a kid, and he makes the kid bet on the monkey. And so he goes back to the boxing ring from the start of the film, and somehow evades police during all of that, and gets around and convinces the boxing guy to give him another shot. And there's posters that the beast has returned, which I guess is kind of the character he's taken on. Actually, his character, I'll mention it in a moment. I thought I was going to get away from something this week, and I wound up not getting away from that because it has a reference to it. But also during this sequence, I forgot to mention of the hallucinations. We see the only monkey in this movie, and the only actual monkey.
Yeah, which I don't know. Like a part of me kind of took away from that because I don't know. This might just be me. It looked like a Getty Images footage of a monkey.
Probably it was probably stock footage of some sort because you just see the monkey just kind of in the wild. It's just kind of looking around, and then it cuts to the village. But oops. Anyway, we go to the boxing ring, and the kid bets all the money on Dev Patel on the monkey, and we get a great boxing intro, and the guy comes out and he's like, in this corner we have the snake who's beaten thousands of opponents and is the strongest man who's ever lived, and he goes on this 1 to 2 minute speech about the snake guy that's in the ring. And it's just essentially a mask is on the guy. And then and then he's like, and then in this corner, returning, we have Kong, king of the animals. And I was like, they mentioned Kong. I just did 3 weeks of Kong. I thought I could get out of Kong. But no, Kong sneaks into this movie. But he gives this big speech, and he's like, all right, He's a beast. He's an animal. I went to Africa, my homeland, and shot him myself and brought him here. And he gets the crowd all riled up. And he was like, it's going to be a battle of the ages. And the bell rings, and Dev Patel just kicks the guy in the face and knocks him down. And
right in the chin.
This is my favorite scene of the movie. And I was just like, oh my God. And like the guy falls down, and the whole crowd is silent. And the announcer is like, what the hell, man? like what? And Dev Patel kind of with the monkey mask on, gives he kisses at him to be like, what are you gonna do about it? To taunt him. Just knocked out your head guy. Pay me, essentially. And the crowd's kind of confused and everything, and the announcer's like, okay, well, actually we have this other bigger guy. And we just see this huge, humongous man come out. He kind of looks like Andre the Giant in his like a loincloth and everything, and
just more leaner. And I think
Andre
he's
Giant.
Almost half a size taller than Dev at that point. It just barges in. Oh, we should also point out that Alfonso, who was actually hiding from the police because being tied to a kid after shooting down, after causing all the ruckus in the hotel, he's hiding in the streets, and then he just decides to watch the show on a whim. So he's watching him his ultimate comeback in this whole thing.
I just want to point out that Dev Patel is 6'2" according to Google.
No way.
So if he's 6'2", that man's 9 feet tall.
This is not human, that guy.
Yeah, that guy is huge. I mean, I doubt the man's actually that huge, but just an enormous. I'm gonna see if I can find him on IMDb. But they get into a scrape and a fight. Do you want to describe how that fight kind of goes down?
Yeah, so it's he's already tall, and then Dev Patel is pulling no punches, attacking him in his weak points, and then the announcer gets fed up at just this whole change, and he calls the tall guy in, and he says, "Here, take this," and it's a barbed wire bat, and then he just tells him just take him down by any means. And it's just this whole David and Goliath situation of kid trying just evading every single swing. And the cool thing is even the camera is meant to almost be attached to the bat as it swings across Dev's face, which at that point I was me and some other guy in the theater. I don't know this guy, but we were just each other, and we were just looking at each other. We were like, oh my God. But ultimately just wins out, and I don't remember how he just takes him out. I think he just has a couple punches and a kick to the chest. Oh no, actually kicks him right in his nether region multiple times.
He does
kind of knocks him down.
He does kind of cheat a little bit.
like a little combo at the end to get him down. Yeah. And then he ends up taking him down. And as the title like promises, he in victory, the monkey man actually punches his chest like an ape, and everyone in the crowd literally goes nuts for him.
Yeah, they all start cheering for Monkey Man, and Alfonso gets up and he goes, "That's the Monkey Man right there!" And he has embraced the inner monkey within him and the inner warrior that he was kind of destined to become.
Like the story, like literally struck down by gods, and he's resurrected and gained powers, and that's really the symbolism that I thought was tied very well to the action that he made for the whole story. And even in the end, like what was just as rewarding, the announcer is even impressed. Like he's no longer mad at him. He's just kind of nodding. It's like, like, okay, cool.
Nice. All right. Well, you gave us
that is my monkey man. Yeah, that is my monkey man.
Reminded me of that scene in the original Spider-Man where he takes him down and then he wins over the crowd and everything because they're like, this guy's a dingus. But anyway, so Dev Patel wins. He gives the money to the kid. They brings it back to the temple, and they hang this backpack full of cash on this statue that they have in there. And the people of the temple, they come out, and Alpha like kind of inspects the bag and finds all this cash. And there's a note in there being like, embrace who you are. I think something along the lines like that is on the note. And they have enough money to save the temple now. And so it's the day of the election also. We'll keep that in mind, I believe. And there's a big parties going on in the street. And there's people dressed in different kind of Hindu figures in masks and everything all throughout the street. A perfect cover if you're trying to sneak through the crowds. To embrace the new animalistic side of him. He takes and kind of meld the two worlds together. He takes bleach and he bleaches his black monkey mask, and it becomes a white monkey mask. I was like, what's some cool imagery there. And he wears it, and he's in a nice fresh John Wick suit, and we're in the third act of this film. And I'm like, okay, now this is where we're going here. And he's walking through the crowds, and he winds up walking over to the King's Hotel, VIP lounge, brothel, whatever you want to call it. And he's going into the line that, all the employees originally had to go through for metal detecting. And he takes off the mask and he just beats the two guards outside up.
Yeah, does not hesitate. Just takes off the mask and goes into the kitchen and everything all swinging. My only nitpick, which isn't really a nitpick, is just that he doesn't keep the mask longer.
I was upset about that too. I remember coming out of the movie, I was like, I wish he wore it at least, or kept it on him, because he just throws it into the alleyway, and it's like they just did this cool shot of him
and it's gone,
dunking the mask, and he puts it on and he's embracing this character that he has embodied, and he just chucks it away, and it's just so sad. It's like, oh well. I guess Dev didn't want to wear the mask for the actual fight scenes of this movie. I get it. It's fine. He was just wearing him in the boxing ring.
It was so cool. Yeah. It was so cool.
It's a great look. A big Halloween costume this year, I feel. He makes his way inside. Meanwhile, on the other side of the building, political leader who is being elected, or is there's an election going on, like I mentioned, and they're hosting him at the hotel. And the guru is also with them, and they are swamped by cameras and everything. And we see the guru get out of his car, and you just see kind of his outfit, and he's supposed to be a man of the people, a man who speaks up for the poor, and that's the same thing that the political guy is also supposed to be embodying. And you just see he's wearing an expensive ring. His car is super expensive. It has a lion on the front of it. He's got these funky flip-flops, and I'm like,
they're engraved with a quote.
Yeah,
it's so well designed.
It's like, you're a jerk. You're a hypocrite. I remember seeing that, and the guy next to me was like, what an ass. And I was like, yeah, right. And so they go inside the building and they're holding like this sort of like fundraiser event or a celebratory speech inside the hotel. And Dev Patel is making his way through the back, and he comes into the kitchen and he gets into a fight in the kitchen. And this is where full John Wick action. He has a gun. He starts shooting people, and there's a back and forth in the kitchen, and he kills a bunch of guys. And then there's a great shot of like all these knives sitting on like the counter. And there's like a cleaver, there's a small knife, and then there's like a big knife. And he picks up the cleaver and he like chucks it away, and he picks up the small knife and he like puts it in his pants, and then he goes back and he gets the other knife as well, and he takes that with him. And he makes his way into the main dining room area where he was once a waiter. And this is where they're holding the celebratory dinner. They hear the gunshots going off in the kitchen, so everyone starts to panic and run away. And he makes his way into the area, and there's just goons just everywhere. And you see the police chief.
Oh, he makes a bomb. He makes a bomb, doesn't he?
Oh, well, I forgot about this. When he bursts into the dining room, he has fireworks on him, and he's shooting fireworks out.
Yeah.
He has like 3 fireworks. He uses one to kind of like put smoke into the building, and then he fires one directly at some guy's head. And then, like, while that guy's down, he fires another one. And I was like, again, would have been cool to see more firework action, but he had 3. Moving on, let's go. And he makes his way in, and then the goons surround him and everything. And he's in a situation where he's like, maybe I'm screwed here. But who bursts through the doors and comes in? But people of the temple, they run in, and they're in their dresses, and they have these big masks on. And we get this big fight scene. And I would say this is very it reminded me of Kill Bill Volume 1.
Yeah, with the crazy 88.
Yeah, all the goons coming out of the woodworks and everything there. And you have everyone attacking everybody else. And which I know is also influenced from Japanese cinema and Asian cinema as well, so I'm sure it's really a reference to some other movie.
It's a cycle. It's a cycle.
It's a cycle. Yeah. But you see is there a needle drop on this scene?
No, I think it's all just the score. But it's just a score. But that hopefully we're not underselling how amazing the shift it happens when the people from the temple just come in, and there's like a moment of silence so you can understand the help he's getting, and then when they cut to action, it just goes all out. And the crowd that I was with, that was the one time like we applauded so loud at that point, because someone I think should have just like leapt up from their seat and just yelled at that point. Like that energy was needed in that moment. And then everything just goes insane and in the best way possible when he gets help from the people from the temple. And then they have sides getting these goons like from their backs or from like their chest, and they just kind of pull them through. And then that's when the major carnage just comes in.
This huge fight scene just breaks out, and
it ties into again the political undertones where you have like the guru and like the police force. They're like overtaking the underrepresented people, and with them serving that, and then them enacting their revenge against those people. Which what we've been talking about the whole podcast was just that how Dev wanted every single hit, every single sequence to matter and not have it feel soulless. And at that point, at that scene, and hearing from the audience around me, you could instantly tell how much that worked.
Oh, it's a great fight sequence, and it doesn't go on for too long, but you just see this carnage, and it's matched with all these bright, vibrant colors, and it's just so good. We're not doing it. You need to watch it. Spoiler for a little bit later, but you should go watch this scene. So, jumping back into this, the fight scene kind of ends, and Dev Patel is kind of pinned down behind kind of this bar cart or this like ledge, and there's bullets coming from all around, and we get the manager from earlier who once hired him, and she's no nonsense, and she was like, I'm going to kill you, and starts firing at him and is making his way, and he's out of bullets and he's out of equipment essentially, and he's kind of he's stuck.
Yeah, like hiding behind a table. Yeah, and she's like, she's just walked, it's just storming in, with like spending all her bullets at him. Yeah,
yeah, and she almost gets to him, but she is intercepted and smacked in the head with a serving tray by the escort from earlier that kind of told him to grow up and get a life and be like, this is. And she starts to cry, and the boss is on the ground, and maybe she's dead, maybe she's not, but Dev Patel's taking no chances, and he takes the serving tray and he smacks her some more, so she's very dead. You see blood go everywhere, and then he chops her finger off
with the plate. The edge of the plate just stuck it down. Yeah.
And he picks that up and he puts it in his pocket, like, take that little safekeeping for later. He wanders through the rest of the dining room, and he makes his way to the elevator, and he presses the button for the VIP floor, and he's making his way, fighting his way up the tower, kind of like when we were mentioning before what we thought this movie was originally going to be. Turns out it kind of also does that.
It did, yeah.
And he's in the VIP lounge, and he presses the secret button to open the door, and he goes in, and the police chief is there, and also the cowering, like, new political leader is also there. Yeah. He's kind of sniveling and sniffing in the corner. And you see this beautiful art piece that's kind of hanging, and it's a bunch of like these different colored circles. That becomes kind of the centerpiece of this next action scene between Dev Patel and the police chief again. And you just see it kind of spinning, and you see Dev Patel like in one of like these mirrored like spheres. And then the next shot, you just see the police chief in like another red sphere like behind him. And I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, because it's like, and this is like before they fight each other, and it just spins to show each of the reflections like in a side-by-side cut. And at that point, I was with the guy next to me who I don't know, and we just looked at each other and we were like, that's awesome.
It's a good shot.
Shot. Yeah, it's like, and it's, again, with like, it's similar to like as the standoffs in Korean cinema and like Japanese cinema, which are kind of influence Westerns, that just like the lone wolf with the boss just kind of like taking their moment before they start fighting each other. And I read that Dev Patel was influenced by the mirror scene from Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon, which for the life of me, I did not read into because I was just so kind of latched onto it. But now that I saw the interview or read it, that he was influenced by that, I thought, oh, that's both makes perfect sense, but also just spun it in his own way to just really show. And also with the colors used, it's like a very dark red and blue, just so brooding. It's kind of like just an unforgiving setting with like unforgiving characters, and you just sense that. And then they end up fighting each other up until the end. Yeah.
Yeah. He winds up. Spoiler. He winds up killing the police chief. I'm trying to remember how he kills him. He winds up just beating him to death, right? He just kind of punches him until he.
Yeah. I don't think there's any music in that fight.
No, it's not a very long fight scene either. He kind of just takes him down, and he winds up, just killing him. And you think finally getting revenge for his mother. And you see the political guy like in the corner, and he just kind of runs away. Dev Patel could not care less about this guy. He's just like, whatever, go away. And there's one more floor to access, and he takes the severed thumb out of his hand and he puts it on the scanner, and it scans and opens another elevator, and he gets in, and it goes up, and you get that shot of the poster of the red elevator. The doors open up, and you see the silhouette of Dev Patel, and the red elevator doors open. And it's the weirdest looking apartment you've ever seen. It's just kind of art and a swimming pool, and then windows everywhere. And on the other end is the guru, and he has his feet, and he's just kind of flicking his feet in the water, like being all menacing and bad guy like, and just being like, I do what's best for the people or whatever. Dev Patel explains, he's like, you killed my mother essentially, and I'm going to kill you. And he walks, and you see these murals, these canvas paintings of kind of the story we had heard several times throughout this movie of the monkey man. The tale, and he's walking through the water, and the guru gets up and he starts explaining about his shoes, and he's like, these shoes were designed by one of my devout followers, and he made it so if I was to step on even the smallest of creatures, like it has markings that indicate like, I am so sorry, I apologize for harming you. And it's this hippy dippy nonsense. And he just kind of gets closer and closer to Dev Patel. And then he kind of pulls the part where you would put your big toe and the rest of your feet like on a flip flop, and he pulls that out, and it's secretly a knife, and you're like, and he gets up and he stabs Dev Patel in the stomach, and he like twists it, and you're just like, ooh, geez, that hurts. So there was a groan in my audience, like, oh no, like, ee. And then he takes the second one from the other shoe, and he stabs Dev Patel through the hand, and Dev Patel starts to fight back, and he rips it out, and he winds up stabbing the guru, and he takes that out, and he takes the other one out of his stomach, and he stabs the guru through the head, and you see these helicopters flying all around, and you see glimpses of his mother, and he's finally avenged the death of his mother, and kind of cuts to black from there, and we said directed by Dev Patel, and that's kind of how the movie ends. Not really a happy ending, but it's a revenge tale, and he accomplishes his goal, and it's such an interesting movie. The other movies I've talked about, and then the movie, there's a bit of an epilogue, and the movie ends. Well, this movie just ends. It's over, and I love it for it, because it's the climax happens, and then it says, well, you draw your own conclusions from here. Dev Patel is shot, he's stabbed, he's probably going to die, or at least caught by the police. There's not really much more where he can run.
Yeah. And it's not like it leaves off kind of promising a sequel. There's no talks about that, but it just ends off ambiguously enough where it's like it could just end there, and that's it. His goal is accomplished, his mission is like he's fulfilled what he needs to do, and that's it. And we just everyone in the theater just walked away, and people were like. I had this couple walk out when we were in the credits, and then I just heard they're talking to each other. And it's like that was the last best thing I saw in the last 3 years, and people started agreeing, a whole crowd agreed with everyone too, and it's that was essentially how for a lot of people the movie, no matter how it ended, it became a great crowd pleaser on just going on this journey of revenge that just makes it all that makes the acts kind of worth it. For the character and the undertones it has, and it was just an overall good time for Monkey Man, as violent as it is. But,
yeah, no, I mean for something that was initially probably, at least in my mind, was thought as this is John Wick here in India. It's a little bit, it's different. It's yes, it has that John Wick. The raid action, but it's got a kind of deeper story, and it's a story that it's a little bit more grounded than John Wick, I would say. There's no magical society of homeless people that actually are controlling the streets of New York, and there's a weird coin that determines a blood pact. It's nope, this is a revenge tale, and it's a guy who wasn't very good at it, and then he trains and he gets a little better at it. He gets his revenge. Just talking some fun trivia about this movie. Dev Patel, he actually began training Taekwondo when he was 10 years old, and he got his first black belt when he was 16 years old. Probably right around, he's come a long way from The Last Airbender in terms of action. And then in this movie, he suffered a number of injuries, which included a broken hand, two broken toes, a torn shoulder, and an eye infection. So he went through the ringer while he was learning all the choreography and directing this movie. It's crazy. When watching it, I was like, was this shot in India? India is such an important setting of this movie. It was originally going to be shot in India, and then they wound up shooting it in Indonesia because of COVID. There was like some looser COVID restrictions, but this crew and these people, they kind of made a bubble for themselves. And Dev Patel said in an interview where he was like, I saw people love and hate each other, and they got married, and they had they had children, all like while we were, trapped together making this movie.
That's crazy. That's kind of awesome. Yeah.
And then kind of the big kind of story about this film is that this movie was originally shot and produced for Netflix, and it was going to be a direct-to-streaming film, and it probably would have done well there, but there was I guess they were streaming it for other distributors or something, and Jordan Peele wound up seeing the film, and he was like, this needs a theatrical release, and he wound up buying the film from Netflix and gave Dev Patel a little more time to finish the editing, and they wound up redoing the entire score. They got a whole nother person to change the whole score to the film. And, Jordan Peele has a deal with Universal. So he was like, hey, I'll put it under my banner, my production company, and, you'll get distribution through Universal. And so, it's now, being distributed by a large, movie studio, and it's, it wasn't that expensive. Like you said, it cost $10 million. It's currently, as of recording, made $12.7 million at the box office. So it's made its budget back, probably needs a little bit more to make back its marketing costs. But boy, oh boy, like, was this a wild time? Because this movie just came out, there's not many other fun facts that really, exist. Dev Patel only just started doing kind of press for it a few weeks ago, and so it's probably mostly the same stuff regarding like the cameras broke and the GoPros and things like that. Is there anything you found you want to talk about?
Yeah, at least because I was trying to search up an article, like a concrete article that explained why it was switched from Netflix to Universal, and that ties into a bit of like the political undertones in the movie that's tied with the story. I mean, we're not going to pretend like we know like what's happening over India with what's happening over there, but I know that the main reason why Netflix dropped the movie was because the story and kind of the themes of it was so similar to what's happening politically in India with the right-wing movement and everything, and they were scared at the possible backlash, so that they just dropped it from their calendar. And they had switched from their calendar in 2020, I think 2022, like 2 times before they decided to drop it. And another tidbit that I actually found before the podcast was that in the first trailer, like the flags and the coloring of like the guru's like support group is like colored orange, but in the second trailer they switched to color red because the far right movement in India, their banners are orange. Ooh, so it was too similar. And so in the edit they switched it to red, and so that most likely came from when Universal had bought the movie to kind of switch from that so that it could possibly release in India. No word yet, or if they'll edit it or if they're not going to release it at all. But that's Universal on that side has said that they plan to in some way.
Well, I read somewhere that I'm trying to remember, there was a planned release date of like April of this year, like in a few weeks, but it has been pulled from the schedule. So
yeah, and they said they still plan on releasing. At least Universal India said they plan on releasing it, which I thought was interesting. But even then, I mean, aside from like was whatever it's politically tied into with what Dev wanted to tell for the story, I mean, how blessed kind of we are that the movie's seen on a larger scale compared to like with Netflix. Like you said, it would have been great on Netflix.
It probably would have come out and it would have done fine. Like people would be like, oh, there's like this cool movie on Netflix, but like, can you name like Netflix original movie? Like,
yeah,
do you remember Extraction?
Only the title, only by title.
Did you know they made a sequel, Extraction 2?
Yeah.
Or like, Red Notice or something like that. Like, they do have hits and some, that but I wouldn't say their movies kind of break the cultural barrier so much. And I think like their TV shows do, of course, but there's something about the movies that just kind of like they come out, people go, either they're good, they're not. They're kind of just forgotten though. Meanwhile, the TV shows, probably because they are longer and they have more longevity to them, they do last in people's minds a little bit more. And I think because this is, this does have a theatrical release now, it had probably a larger marketing budget, because Netflix usually releases a trailer like a month before something comes out. And they're like, by the way, it's out next week.
And just one trailer too. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like this has, and it has, big people behind it with Jordan Peele. Like I think this movie's going to have legs in the long term, where this movie will do probably really well. And, to Dev Patel, I hope, he has a successful directing career after this. And if he wants to make a Monkey Man 2, listen, I'll be on board. I'm more than happy to watch more of this, or do similar kind of action films, because he kills it in his, if I could be so lucky.
no, and he does, and that goes with kind of the resiliency that he's had, because in addition to like what you mentioned with the interviews that he did to kind of get the movie made, one thing that I tried not to focus on the movie, because I heard in an interview, I think it was with Jimmy Fallon, but that because he had broken his wrist, I think on his left hand, or his left wrist.
Yeah.
He had broken that early on in the shoot, and so most of the punches in most of the sequences of the movie, it's actually him landing right hand punches.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's like and that was the only way to kind of continue the shoot, but to kind of catch him like with most of the action from the right side, or even to the point of like saying, "Oh, we broke a table, but we can't afford more replacement tables or other props, so we have to glue them back together and then go through it again." Yeah, and that's just left me more impressed at how just the movie, like I said, you could sense that it could just break apart at any moment, not by story, but just by how it looks. And
we ran out of money.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, there's a shot that's shot by iPhone, but at this point, I didn't really care, because I was like, oh, this is amazing, this is so cool to look at. But that scrappiness for a $10 million movie, it shows to great results. And I do think, even though it opened at like 10 million, and I think there was reported that it wasn't like as big as they expected it to be, I think it would still be a hit through word of mouth. If it's anything from I heard from people in my audience or other people that have seen it, I think they'll just simply say, "Hey, this movie's cool, so just go watch it." And
I think this movie is going to be hanging around. Like, I don't think it's going to have the most screenings. It's not going to, it's not going to break $1 billion or anything. It probably won't break $100 million. But like, I think like it's going to stick around. I think through good word of mouth, it's going to be what was the Pixar movie from last year? I think it's going to be the Elemental of John Wick-esque action movies. I think it's going to just kind of hang around. People will eventually find it, because they're going to be like, I've heard good things about this, because I think the word of mouth is going to just spread it. And like, it is coming out at a time that is a little tricky. Kong Godzilla came out last week, and we talked about that last week. And we have like that. This was kind of the big movie of this week coming out. And then there's Alex Garland's Civil War. We're kind of in like this little bit of a lull, I would say, until the next big monkey movie, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, comes out, where there's like, that's kind of the next big blockbuster. So for about a month now, I think we're going to have this time where it's like, okay, we have these lower budget movies that are going to do well at the box office. I could see Civil War doing really well. That has great word of mouth as well. And, we have, there's that horror movie Abigail, which is like a vampire ballerina movie. Like, there's these exciting kind of different movies. And I think we are at a time right now where people want these different movies. Like, the big budget films are great and everything, and they're fun, and they're, we talked about it before, but people also kind of want something that's a little bit more, that's different than what they've seen. And I think this movie and these upcoming films leading into Planet of the Apes, which I am super excited about. Don't get me wrong. I think it's exciting to have a different set of stuff, so people aren't just excited for, oh, like, what's the superhero movie of this week, which I also love, by the way. I don't.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we're at a time where it's exciting to have these different movies, and I hope this does well, and I would love to see more. I do worry that people won't go out to the theaters to see it. I'll just jump ahead. Is this a monkey see, monkey do, or a monkey see, monkey don't?
Oh, that's if you couldn't tell from the start of the podcast, it's totally monkey see, monkey do. Hands down.
It's a monkey see, monkey. We're already saying we love to see it, and I want more people to go out and see this. And we have just spoiled the whole movie, so if you didn't watch the movie, I'm sorry. Maybe I'll put this up top and like go watch this movie first, and then come back to this podcast. But it's a really good film. Or if you were on the fence about it and you wanted to hear us talk about it and kind of get the general sense of what the movie is, regardless of story, just to watch the action alone in this film is well worth the ticket. Like, everyone knows the story of, I knew the story of John Wick going in. It's like, oh, like his dog dies, and so he gets, they kill his dog, so he gets revenge.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you get it. It's a revenge story. But that's not what you go there for. You go there for the action and the kills and everything. And this one, I would say, not even for the kills, but just for the action. And yes, the story, it is kind of basic, but it's fun.
Yeah, because of just how everything is shot. Like, we can only do so much on like telling the story and what we thought of and what we saw. But if whoever's listening to it, has listened up to this point but has not seen the movie yet, to trust us, we did not spoil your possible enjoyment of the movie, because it's just so much that we just couldn't get into. Although, just to kind of save it, I know we spoiled pretty much everything, but I'm just going to save the one moment that for me I thought was just the pinnacle of the movie is in one elevator scene, there is a song from Boney M, Rivers of Babel, which not to get too much into it, but lyrically and the subject of the song I felt was so fitting and so hilariously done in this brutal sequence with that song. I just want to point that out because, at least with the soundtrack, again, similar to the remixes we talked about, but with the music, I felt that it was even the detail as far as the music goes and everything else. I feel like it was all just meticulously and so well crafted, so well done that it just shows.
Yeah, it's a very well-made movie, to summarize.
Yeah, pretty much.
And like, is it perfect? No, but what movie is? But this is going to be a quick chat because there's not really a monkey in this, but let's talk about the monkey in the movie. I mean, we could talk about Dev Patel and his character and everything, but there really isn't an actual physical monkey. There's the spirit of, what's the monkey? The
Hanuman, yeah.
Hanuman. There's the spirit of Hanuman, which is the monkey god, and we just kind of get glimpses of that through the tapestries and the canvas and the storybook and everything, and the puppet. Mm-hmm. And so there's not really a physical monkey there, but he's a known figure, I assume, in the Hindu culture. So power to Hanuman there.
Mm-hmm.
I support fully as a monkey enthusiast. And then also we get the one shot or two Getty images of that white monkey, which I don't have the name of. But we just see these images of the monkey. So, there's not much to really talk about in terms of the physical monkeys of the movie. You have Dev Patel wearing his gorilla mask and playing quote unquote Kong in the boxing ring. But that's just really Dev Patel playing Kid or Buddy or whatever, or Bobby or whatever he goes by at that particular moment. So I would say that it's kind of tough to talk about the physical monkey of the movie. I was expecting there to be a little bit more monkey in this monkey man, but that is okay.
Yeah, the concept of monkey is greater than the physical representation of the monkey in the movie. But
yes. This movie's more so concept monkey as opposed to physical monkey, as opposed to some of the other films where it was a lot of physical monkey and there was no concept that you were looking at physical monkey. I'm looking at you, Kong Godzilla. Another question I love to ask is the what happens if there is no monkey in this movie? Okay, so you remove the monkey from the film. Let's remove Hanuman. He was never told the story of Hanuman. It's not a character that exists or a god that exists in the Hindu culture or anything like that, or not something he looks up to. And it's the same movie. Nothing really changes.
Yeah, just
all right. So he doesn't have this persona of the monkey man. He's he'll pick probably another animal.
Yeah. It might as well it could have been the snake. Like
it could have been a snake. It could be a mongoose. It could be whatever.
It could have been the dog. Like the dog he meets in the alleyway. Oh, the dog, yeah.
I love that dog. I'm so glad that dog didn't die.
I know. Although I did miss that it was only there for like the few scenes and just like forgotten. I thought we were going to see the dog again when he came back, but no, it's fine. We had enough dog. It was here there.
We had enough dog. He served his purpose. Moved the plot forward.
Yeah.
All right. So we kind of already rated the movie. Any other fun facts or trivia you want to bring up, or you kind of have? Like I said, it's kind of early days of this film, so there's probably not that much coming out, and it was a small budget, so
yeah. No, it's just the one thing that, again, that the one detail that I didn't get too much detail, and neither does the articles that mentioned it, but just it's just so like inspiring, but also hilarious to me that how much Dev and the whole team behind the movie just was so fixated on getting the movie made, where they came to a point on hanging cameras like a swing, and that's partially the reason why they would break, only to get such cool shots. And the end result is you kind of just feel that determination, that passion. And honestly, I can't remember the last movie that I've watched that has that feeling just so consistently, where not every single shot is perfect on like a composition wise, or like even out of focus stuff is like seen where you can't really make out some stuff. But I think because of the movie, how it's so focused on the story and how it's just made and just having it out there, it doesn't really matter. In fact, it just only makes it an imperfect movie more perfect, I think.
It's the charm of it. It's the charm.
Exactly. Yeah. But
everything about this is the little movie that could and should.
Yeah, and no, just to cap off, it's only had a budget of $10 million. Universal actually just only bought the movie for $10 million, but hopefully through word of mouth and just through excitement for anyone that has seen it like us, that they go and catch it too, because it's a movie worth spending your time. If not for the inspiration from the story, but just for the sheer entertainment of this guy giving what for to those that wronged him and his
Yeah. Well, with that note, I have one last question to ask you.
Yeah.
Do you like monkeys?
Love monkeys. Love monkeys. At least my favorite kind of primate, other than the gorilla, has always been a chimpanzee for whatever reason. Yeah.
Well, we have a group chat with me, you, and one of our other friends, Rebecca. That's literally just called Monkey.
And,
with like that started with the trailer for Transformers: Rise of the Beast came out.
Yeah. We Ron Perlman.
Monkey robot.
Ron Perlman monkey.
Ron Perlman is monkey. We'll talk about that another day.
Yeah.
But we have a bond over our love of monkeys. Like I said, I wish this movie had just a little bit more monkey in it, but that's okay. Concept of monkey, it's a good movie.
Yeah, we are tethered to the idea of monkey. Absolutely.
Aren't we all the concept of monkey as humans?
Yeah, pretty much.
So let me wrap up the show here. All right. I want to thank you so much for joining us today, David. I appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule to come and talk about this movie. And we had a good, I hope you all had a good time listening, and thank you all for listening up until this point. I appreciate that. If you can, please tell your friends about the show. It'd help us out immensely. If you want to help out the show in another way, we have an Amazon affiliate link I'm going to throw down into the description, so you can buy whatever you'd like. You can buy brand new cameras that you've just broken on swings through Amazon, and I get a kickback of that somehow. It helps me just to pay a little bit of the bills to keep the show running. If you also would like, please give a 5-star review in your podcaster of choice. Right now we're on Spotify, Amazon Music, and then we also are on YouTube, where you could like and subscribe on our YouTube channel there. I want to thank Elias for our logo. Thank you again for listening. All right, David, do you have a fun way to close out the show?
Idea of monkey within us all. And this year too, we are all monkey. Scientifically and spiritually. Yes, we are.
The monkey is within us. All right. Thank you. Bye.
All right. See ya.